Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and yes, the new fusion, it's starting on Thursday. It's a freaking panda, guys. Bambus Fourleaf. It's a panda. I love it so much. This is hilarious, and very interesting kit, greatly themed kit, I have to say. Gonna show that to you now. Will he be good? I don't know. We're gonna read through and find out, but just right off the bat, I love it. I love it. Funny, kind of four-leaf. You know, he's got the four-leaf clover motif as well. Reminds me a lot of Yoshi the Drunkard. Almost feels like a St. Patrick's Day fusion in a way. Obviously, for St. Patrick's Day, like it's a shamrock, it's a three-leaf clover, not a four-leaf one. They're different, but still, his staff is even quite like Yoshi's. So, tangent aside, I thought it was a bit funny. Okay, just to check in as well with the official announcement from Plarium, it is on Thursday, the 28th of September. So that is this coming Thursday. We're planning to launch a fusion event of a new champion, Bambus Fourleaf. So calling it a fusion event, it is probably going to be the case where this is a collect a bunch of rares, fuse them up into epics, fuse those epics, up into this legendary champion. That is most likely the way that it is going to go. Of course, it could be just collect epics directly or something. Don't know for sure, but probably prepare for a fairly intensive one. Most likely, it's gonna typically, these classic fusions are typically fairly hard, much harder than the fragment fusions. But there you are. He is a magic support champ, legendary, of course, for the Skinwalker faction. If we want to understand his kit, just like if you look to the bottom of this A1, we'll come back to it. Places a sleep debuff on this champion for 1 turn. The debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Same thing on his A2. It's all about sleep. To understand it, let's actually go to the end. And let's move me out of the way over to this corner. This is the cool corner to check it out. By the way, I know you guys say I look like Phoenix with my hair down, but when my hair is up, we've got the top knot. It's not a man bun now, it's a top knot. Do we look more like Bambus? Is Bambus the new channel mascot? Pandas are cool. Pandas are just cool. Sleeping Sage, this passive effect, okay, has a 50% chance of transferring any debuffs placed on an ally to this champion while they are under a sleep debuff. Will not transfer block revive, which is weird that it's a debuff, but technically it is. Stun, freeze, fear, true fear, provoke, and petrification. So essentially sort of any crowd control debuffs and block revive. At the start of this champion's turn, remove any sleep debuffs from this champion. An active effect as well here. It doesn't seem to have a cooldown. Seems like it happens passively too, which is a bit weird. Like there's no cooldown mentioned. Transfers all debuffs from this champion to the enemy with the highest resistance if a sleep debuff was removed from this champion by this champion's passive skill. This effect cannot be resisted. So very interesting. Basically all of his moves put him to sleep, which is, I just love the theme of that. As a panda, it's like, how did these creatures evolve? It is ridiculous. Eating bamboo, a big old bear eating bamboo, not nutritious at all, constantly having to sleep to conserve energy. It's madness. Yeah, every single move puts him to sleep. While he's asleep, he can take debuffs off allies, puts it on himself, and then when he wakes up at the start of his turn, he can transfer all of those debuffs he's taken off, transfer them away, put them onto the enemy. I guess sort of the downside of this, the concern, very simple. Any damage that he takes will wake him up from sleep early. So any AoE attack's not going to work. So for example, this would be great in Hydra, right? We get all those poisons coming out from the Head of Blight, transfer all those poisons. The enemy with the highest resistance, Head of Suffering, the tankiest one, and he's weak to poisons. Put the poisons on him. Brilliant. Don't think it's going to work because the AoE attack from Head of Blight should hit him as well. And if he gets hit, wow, he wakes up. Then he's not waking up from his passive. And therefore, it's not going to transfer anything. So yeah, maybe if he's at like the back of the team, because sometimes things work a bit weirdly like that in the game. AoE attacks don't hit everyone simultaneously, but they go sort of one by one through your roster from the front of the team to the back. So for example, where you position Krisk in your team, if you've got a Krisk, matters a lot. Where you put a Vogoth in your team, it matters a lot for proccing their passive skills in the correct order. Perhaps we do something similar like that, where you could take off debuffs, he gets hit last in the team order and wakes up. I'll have to test that out. And we'll see. So stay tuned for the fusion testing. I will obviously be testing him in Hydra. We'll see if we can make fun stuff like that work, but could be some downsides. Anyway, let's go back through his active skills, and then we'll talk about it more overall. Bamboo Splinters A1 attacks one enemy, has a 50 going to 75% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns. Will attack all enemies instead if the initial target is under 2 or more debuffs. This attack has a 40 booking to 65% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns. Then puts sleep on this champion for 1 turn. The debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Interesting stuff, huh? Interesting stuff. So obviously, in single target content, it's a single target hit with a 75% chance of decreased speed. It's solid enough, right? Then turning into an AoE with 65% decreased speed is actually a really strong, really strong AoE A1. We consider that we often use Mother Cybele. Kriska's the same A1 as well, but Mother Cybele, it's slightly different. But her A1 is an AoE with a 50% chance of decreased speed. Now there's no requirement. She just always does it. It gives her 15% turn meter, but it's interesting. He comes in with 65% AoE decreased speed, which is kind of cool if they're under 2 or more debuffs. But presumably in Hydra, they should basically always be under 2 or more debuffs. So potentially an amazing decreased speed champ for Hydra, even if you locked out his other skills, which is weird, but maybe it would work. I'm intrigued by that alone. It's a niche sort of thing, but potentially really good in a weird sort of way. So a very intriguing A1, Bamboo Splinter. Then Grove Tender, his A2. Attacks all enemies. Before attacking, puts a shield buff on all allies equal to 30% of their max HP for 2 turns. Also increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. After attacking, has a 75% that goes to 100% chance of decreasing the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, even if the attack lands as a weak hit. Also increases the value of any shield buffs on all allies by 2% for each enemy buff that had its duration decreased by this skill. Then places a sleep debuff on this champion for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Interesting move. Now, it's a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Typically speaking, buff extension moves are best on a 3-turn cooldown because it's very common to have 2-turn buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. I mean, think of, let's say Lydia would be a pretty classic example. Gives you increased speed and strengthen on 3-turn cooldown for 2 turns. If you pair her up with a 3-turn cooldown buff extender, like I don't know, Godseeker Neri or something like that, right? You get 100% uptime. We think about Oella with increased resistance, 100% uptime effectively with the right speed tune. That's a big deal. This being a 4-turn cooldown buff extension, it's going to make your buffs more consistent, but not 100% consistent. So that's something to consider. It's a big shield, 30%, but it is based off your allies' max HP. So that's probably a bit of a negative, right? This is a support champion. So if it was based off his max HP, it's much likely to be better because your nukers, your damage dealers who are squishier would benefit more. Still going to be fairly decent though. Decreasing enemy buffs, that's a bit of a weird one. You would think that'd be mostly a thing for Arena. So that seems strong for Arena. Decrease their buffs even if he weak hit, so affinity won't matter. And it is an AoE attack as well. The effect happens even if it weak hits. That's curious. For Hydra, could be kind of okay, but again, typically speaking, they're not going to have many buffs in Hydra. But yeah, increasing ally buffs by 2% for each enemy buff had its duration decreased by this skill. So let's say an enemy, there's 4 enemies, they got 3 buffs each, 6% per enemy, 24%. I mean, 3 buffs on each enemy, 4 enemies, grow the shield by 24% is fairly substantial, actually. So that could add up. It could be very strong. It's an intriguing move. The cooldown is long. Yeah, it's intriguing. Then Dream Sight, his final active move here. 5-turn cooldown, again, goes to 4 turns. So 2 4-turn cooldown moves. So you will probably go Dream Sight, Grove Tender, double A1. Dream Sight, Grove Tender, double A1 will be the rhythm. Target an enemy first, places a 50% increase accuracy buff and a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Not only does he look like Yoshi the Drunkard, but he's got like half his move. Then has a 75 booking to 100% chance of placing an enfeeble debuff on the target enemy for 2 turns. Cannot be placed on bosses though. Very interesting. Also, 75 going to 100% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And finally puts a sleep on this champion. Cannot be blocked or resisted. A lot to unpack here. Enfeeble, this is obviously the first champion that can do this. The Phantom Shogun can apply Enfeeble. I don't know if it actually says in-game. Enfeeble basically turns all of your hits into weak hits. It's only a single target debuff, this Enfeeble, but that is pretty intriguing. So for example, trying to get through Doom Tower waves, and you are hard stuck on the floor with Mortu Macab, because he does this peril, ignore shield, block damage, and all of your defense, and it does a block revive, pain in the butt, come in, stick an Enfeeble on that champion, and that peril is a weak hit. You can probably survive. It becomes much easier. That's very interesting. In Arena, they've got 1 damage dealer. You put Enfeeble on their damage dealer, all they're doing is weak hits for 2 turns. That's very potent as well. So yeah, this is really interesting. Again, how good is that single target? Definitely some practical uses. Is it going to be like God tier everywhere though? I don't know. But certainly there's uses for it, no doubt. So that's intriguing. On top of that, even if we put the Enfeeble aside, you're getting increased accuracy, increased attack on your whole team, and decreased accuracy on all enemies. It's quite a good move, actually. It's quite loaded up with stuff, even ignoring the Enfeeble. Yoshi's version puts out True Fear, which is really strong. His has a 3-turn cooldown. But he's going to have pretty good uptime. So building around increased accuracy this is still, I think, a little bit tricky, right? Increased accuracy, he puts it up for 2 turns, then he extends it on his next move. So you're kind of getting 3 turns of increased accuracy out of every 4 turns. I think if you run him fast, it's probably fine. And this does seem like a champion you'd run fast to try, wake him up with his passive and have the passive actually work. Yeah, that could be something to consider, right? Can I leave my accuracy requirements really low, or do I need it? Placing the decreased accuracy is really cool. Honestly, increase accuracy, decrease accuracy on the same move, AoE, is really nifty. And certainly for Hydra and for Arena, I do value that increased attack buff quite a lot as well. That's pretty cool. There's not too many good increase attack champs for Hydra, so that's always a nice thing to add to your toolkit. Decrease accuracy for Hydra is something I really value. Yeah, this is an interesting one. There is always the potential. There is potential that this champion could be very good for future content in the game. That's sort of my thought about it, right? Increase accuracy, decrease accuracy. That's really good for potential future, where accuracy and resistance numbers, that's something that Plarium really likes to scale. And especially now that increase and decrease resistance are in the game, it makes it more likely that that's something we could see in the future. I mean, it's not hard to anticipate, oh, we've added a new boss. It has 1,000 resistance. Good luck. It has 1,000 accuracy, and you need to resist it to survive. Good luck. It's easy to envision a world where increase accuracy, decrease accuracy become essential, because like so many of the recent content drops in the game have been already go away. That's how you deal with flash offers, by the way. X them off immediately. Iron Twins, really high accuracy requirements. Sand Devil, Phantom Shogun's Grove as well. They can be pretty steep on the accuracy resistance requirements. So that's an interesting move. And possibly as well, against a single target boss, this sleep thing could actually work. Like a bot. That's the thing. AoE attacks are really going to mess him up, right? He goes to sleep, but then he gets hit by an AoE attack, and he's not going to transfer debuffs. He's not going to reflect them back. But if you imagine a boss that's putting out lots of single target debuffs, the fact that he could take those debuffs away, or 50% chance to take them off your allies, and then throw it back irresistibly, throw them back onto a boss, they can't resist it. He could potentially like solo a boss. He could be the new Geomancer in a sense, right? Depending on what debuffs you throw back, he could basically help you solo the boss. It could be insane. So yeah, is that useful right now? I'm not sure. Maybe, but I'm not sure. Like Nether Spider would be a good one, but that's all AoEs. You keep waking up probably. Let me know what you think about that. It's certainly, I think it's very intriguing. And that's sort of my vibe about this champion overall. Yeah, honestly, my vibe about this champ, I'm really excited to test him out. Not only because I'm biased because he's a panda and pandas are cool, but even the A1 by itself could be a useful thing for a lot of players in Hydra, getting a great just decreased speed spamming champion. who maybe can exploit his passive a little bit to do some fun stuff and help you a bit with the poisons, perhaps. It's possible. We'll have to test that out to find out. And then increase accuracy, decrease accuracy, same move. That's fantastic. His base speed is high. He could be a great buffer for your team in arena. That can also do a bit of buff stripping. Pretty intriguing and potentially protect you from single target stuff. I like him a lot. Honestly, I do. I like this champ a lot. Maybe he turns out to be terrible and it doesn't really work, but maybe it does. So stay tuned for the gameplay stuff. I would say, certainly looking at this right now, you obviously don't have too much time to prepare, but my initial thought is this is a fusion. Let me move me over as well. There we go. This is a fusion I would definitely be looking to do. Bambus Fourleaf, he's looking pretty hyped from me. I even think worst case scenario, it's going to be super fun. I think that's the worst case, which is what I want out of this game more than anything. Super powerful champions are obviously probably what most people prefer. But champions that are fun, for me, is even better than that. I think he's going to be that. So yeah, I'm actually feeling real positive about this one, which is not something I could really personally say about the last two fusions. I wasn't mega excited about either of them. They're both like okay in their own way. Emic being pretty decent in his own way, but not to me exciting. This guy, much more interesting, I think, personally. Anyway, there you are. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. I'm curious if maybe people hate him. I don't know. I'll see y'all next time, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.